Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. That's our intro because I don't have an intro yet. Welcome
the song game.
The song game. Welcome to episode 2 of the Young and Pruitt podcast. Pruitt is not here. He had some business come up and he didn't make it. So my beautiful wife, Brittany, has stepped in for David tonight.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
And our first guest on the Young and Pruitt podcast, which is now just the Young podcast because it's just me and my wife, is Ethan Marquette. I know him as Ethan Marquette, and longtime friend and current teammate. And wouldn't you know, he's from Wisconsin.
Oh, you betcha.
So
We're actually teammates for the second time.
Yeah, second time. Jermaine was the first time.
Yeah.
That was fun. That was many moons ago.
2011. Is that right?
About there, yeah.
I think it was.
You were on the 62 though, right?
Yeah. 62. You were on Lofton's truck.
Yeah, I was on the 77.
77.
Lofton cattle truck. You were on the 62 Brendan Gaughan truck. Mm-hmm. I actually, let's see, where did we meet before then?
You know, I was actually trying to think about that earlier today. And
I still remember before we were like actually friends, I met you at the Subway here in Mooresville.
yeah.
And you gave me a business card.
A business card that I made on like a $2 500 pack that I had to print out myself.
Yeah.
I just had my name, my phone number, and it said tire carrier.
And tire carrier on it.
Like I needed to, like before you could do Vistaprint or whatever, I just want like a smiling picture of like a guy pointing his thumbs at himself like, hey, like this is the guy. I
actually still had that in one of my old wallets. I might still have it. I might have to look for it.
If you see my race day bag, that card is in my tag, that pink tag that's on my bag.
That's kind of like a reminder of your humble beginnings.
Kind of. I mean, it was easier to carry around a business card because it fit in your pocket rather than having a resume.
Yeah.
And, if you hand it off to a crew chief or a pit coach or another teammate or somebody on another team, it's just easier to put it in your pocket. When they take it out later, like, oh, yeah, I should probably call that guy.
Yeah, I mean, it also looks professional, very professional.
It was the hope behind it anyway.
So I know racing's pretty big up in Wisconsin. What got you down here?
It's very, very cold there all the time.
Whereabouts in Wisconsin are you from?
I tell everybody the Wausau area, and I'm actually from about 15 minutes north of there. It's a little town called Merrill. I think I grew up in a population of 8,000, and about 70% of that were over the age of 65. So I raced street stocks up there for a while.
Yeah.
And I kind of dabbled around with a little bit of everything else. I wanted to be a driver is what I wanted to do because I thought I was good enough. And, young dreams, you think you're good and got the world by the balls. But I chose pit crew because it was kind of the second best thing. And it's actually the only thing I've ever really been good at. Like I've won a race in, I think, pretty much everything I've driven. And pit crew stuff, it just kind of came more natural. I played football. I wasn't very good. I messed around with hockey. I wasn't very good. But I was pretty good around cars. And my driving record actually can show that I was faster than most people, except the cops.
What was your home track?
I won a bunch of races at Tomahawk, which is now dirt. It was asphalt. And then Wausau at State Park Speedway, which is actually now owned by Chris Wimmer, Scott Wimmer, or the Wimmer family. That's where those guys are from. Paul Menard ran there a little bit, off and on. And when Johnny Sauter was touring, him and Joe Shear would come up there. So him and Joe Shear have been together since day one, pretty much.
It's way up there. Didn't you say that you can see like the northern lights on like a normal occasion?
Yeah, they're not like the pretty green. They're not like super bright, but on a cold winter night, my dad lived out in the country, so it was like 11 miles from population, so it was always dark. So my mom and I would stand on the back deck, and you look north and you can see them. It's kind of like if you watch a car coming over a hill, like you can see headlights in the distance a little bit, but they would strand and move, so it was like a stream in the sky, kind of.
That's cool.
It's different. It's definitely something to see.
That's one thing that my wife's always wanted to see.
Yes, I can't wait, but I don't want to be cold when I go see them.
So
It's going to be a tough one.
If you're going to Wisconsin, you just bring a sweater with you because you never know.
So when you moved down here to North Carolina, what was the deciding factor with that?
I got in a little bit of trouble with the driving record deal. And my dad actually kind of got fed up with me and said, boy, if you pull your head out of your ass, he's like, I'll help you get through school. You can go do whatever you want to do and be who you want to be. He's like, you don't even have to stay here. And that kind of opened my eyes pretty much. And I decided to move 1,100 miles south of everything I knew when I was 19. I think it's like a month before I turned 20. My best friend at the time moved to, he went to the Army. So like 2 weeks later, I decided to go to North Carolina. So I put everything I could fit in my car and came here and never really looked back.
I made a business card. Not too bad.
So who taught you how to carry tires?
I know that you went to Pitt and a bunch of other guys on our team went to Pitt. I never went there. I had this guy that had been doing it for a long time, and his big claim to fame, he was at DEI for a long time. He was a rear changer, and he taught me how to carry.
So because he was a rear tire changer, did he teach you how to carry rears from the start?
They taught me how to carry fronts because they needed a front carrier, and the guy...
Who's they?
That was... So I moved here in 2003, worked a couple of odd-end jobs. I was a tire specialist for like about a year.
Yeah.
But it was at a tire company that took tires from Goodyear. Like they dismounted them and then sold them back to teams. Like they mixed them up into a set and sold them to teams. One of the races that I put tires together for was when I think it was John Wood won at Martinsville in a truck.
Oh wow!
The Roush trucks finished like first, second, and maybe third even.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Oh, I got to thank my tire guy." So I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." You know, I was 20 years old or whatever at the time. But the team that picked me up and taught me how to carry was Curb Agajanian Motorsports. They had the 43 Xfinity or Bush car at the time.
Mm-hmm.
The Channel Lock was the sponsor on it. So what's cool is my dad came to visit a couple months ago, and I bought a house in Kannapolis a few years ago, and Kannapolis has like the North Carolina Music Hall of Fame is right there, and the Curb Motorsports Hall of Fame is right there.
Oh,
Same building. It's free to get in. It's a cool place. It's right downtown. It's on the Dale Trail, you know. In Kannapolis. But I went in there and I saw some cars that I worked on, and I was like, that's pretty cool. And it kind of comes full circle because, you know, we're talking about how we got into it,
mm-hmm.
and those are cars that I worked on, you know, cars that I built, cars that I pit.
that are now in a museum.
They're now in a museum, so I feel old. Like
So I
old
was just getting ready to say the stuff you worked on is in a museum now.
You're
It's,
like, shit, I got old, man.
Huh.
So they taught me how to carry swing style and fronts.
Okay.
I did that for about 2 weeks, and I said, I don't like that. So I switched styles, and I didn't really know that it was like the other one was around, like the style that I carry now.
Mm-hmm.
We call it left step, and I didn't even know that was a thing. They're like, you ever play sports? I was like, oh yeah, I was like football like twice, you know, 2 years no state. Never went very far.
Yeah.
But that was easier to me because I could see the hub and the pattern, and when I put my hand in there, I could see that.
Mm-hmm. So to kind of describe this to people, during a pit stop on the right side, you have the front and rear tire changer, you have the front and rear tire carrier, and the jackman's in the middle. The tire carrier is always to the left of the tire changer, and there's two prominent styles of carrying tires. One, they call it swing style, or they call it side saddle is the other one. So basically, you're to the left of the tire as you're looking at the right side of the car. You're to the left. You're at a 45-degree angle, and the tire's at a 45-degree angle with the lug nuts facing out.
And your butt is against the car.
Yeah. So when the tire changer pulls the tire off, or the jackman pulls the tire off, you move the new tire in at a 45-degree angle towards the hub with the lug nuts facing out, and you index the tire onto the studs depending on the pattern of the studs on the car. The other way is they call left step, where the tire is basically out in front of you. You and the car are at perpendicular to the car,
and you're facing the car,
and you step with your left foot and put the tire on. So those are the two styles. The the swing step or the side saddle way is usually faster, a little bit less accurate. The wind up on the left step is slower, but it's more accurate, I feel, because you can watch the lug nuts go on, and the lug nuts and the studs of the car are both in the same plane of view as you're putting the tire on. So to me, when I was a tire carrier, I first learned how to swing, and then I learned later how to left step because it was a more accurate way for me and for a lot of people. But it depends on what you want. It's hard to be as fast as a swing style, I think.
Well, I think you cover more ground. Like, you physically cover like more inches as a swing because you're coming from like off of your right hip, and you cross your body and you cross your tire changer, and then it's on the car on your left side. With my style, with the left step, it's pretty much like any racing video game when they do a pit stop, like a tire comes out and then it goes right back in, like almost the exact same way. Mm-hmm. So that's how I feel it looks like to me. Mm-hmm. It's kind of cool to watch it from, say, a tire changer's camera, or I think I even put some stuff on YouTube years ago from my actual helmet camera. And then I did the ESPN helmet camera like 5 or 6 times a couple years ago, mm-hmm. like the last year that they did it. So it's a different view. I feel mine has a little more power behind it, and it's a little more accurate. But as a tire changer, I know that it's a different line of sight coming in. And then you have certain guys like Penske only wanted swing style guys for a long time. I think they still do, like the 22, both of their guys on Joey's car have swing style carriers. And now Hendrick only wants step carriers now. A couple years ago, they only wanted swing style guys. So it's kind of gone back and forth. But I mean, I think it really depends on your coaching staff though too.
Yeah, and then there was a couple tire carriers that it was left step. On left step, your left arm's up and your right hand is down. So your left hand is like at 11 o'clock on the wheel, and your right hand is on 6 o'clock on the wheel. There's another way to hold it where your right hand is at 12 o'clock and your left hand is at like 7 o'clock. And you can put the tire on that way. It's not as powerful, and
you can't see it.
And you can't see it because your right arm is really in the way, and it kind of crowds the tire change a little bit more. I mean, the guys that got it down, they had it down. And
well, the guys back in the day too that used their foot to get in there in like the early days.
Yeah, because the
guys look pretty fast.
Yeah, because the original tire carrier would just carry the tire.
Yeah, he'd set it down.
Yeah, he would carry the tire out, set it next to the tire changer, and the tire changer would pull the old tire off. The tire carrier would literally set the tire down, grab the old tire, and take it back to the wall, and the tire changer would put the new tire on himself.
We should go back to that.
Let's not get him any ideas.
That's too much, stuff for a carrier. But I do gotta say that the rear carrier has a different job every time he leaves the wall. Like this week, because we're going to Watkins Glen, it's backwards. So now they had the great idea that I need to run in front of the car.
It works.
I mean, yeah, I'm there sooner. Yeah, sure. But that car is awful close to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's what it's like to be a jackman.
I don't like it. But then, we have places where we don't make an adjustment at all, and all I do is set the hose down and take the old tire back to the wall. Other stops, we have a right side adjustment. So
explain to the people that might not know about the tasks and the job of a rear tire carrier.
Okay. Many years ago, like the rear changer used to be like the money guy, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, that's our guy," and he always got paid more than everybody else because they're like, "Oh, he's a superstar, right?" Mm-hmm. I wish that was the same case with rear carriers, but it's really not. They're like, "You got what you got. Sorry, bud." So, as a rear tire carrier, you get on the wall, and most of these tires where we go have an inner liner, except for tracks that are under a mile, and then they don't. So the light ones are...
Or a road course.
The light ones are about 50 pounds, and the heavy ones are 75-ish pounds. So I pick that up with my left hand, and with my right hand, I'll pick up a hose. What's the outside diameter of the hoses now? 3/4 or so?
It varies from teams right now. I mean, right now teams are experimenting with guns and hoses right now, so they used to all be the same, but now it's about 3/4. Some teams run 5/8.
Yeah.
Some. I mean, the old ones used to be 1/2 inch.
Yeah. So I put a 3/4 inch hose in my pinky, and then a 3/4 inch outside diameter adjustment wrench in my index finger.
Mm-hmm.
So that's usually how I leave the wall. I'll leave the wall behind the car, following my tire changer. I set the hose down, and I put the adjustment wrench in the back window of the car to make a right side adjustment. Then I put the right side tire on. I'll make the adjustment. If that's the only adjustment we have, I will let my tire changer go in front of me because that's what he wants to do. It doesn't really matter to me. I go first or last, whatever. And if there's a double adjustment, like a left side and a right side, I'll make that adjustment on the right side, go to the left side, and depending upon how many rounds, or if it's a fraction of a round, I'll make that adjustment first, take the wrench out, throw it towards the wall, and then put the left side tire on.
Mm-hmm. And for the adjustments that he's talking about, the right side has the track bar and the right side wedge, and then there's just a left side wedge. Here recently, we've gone to the track bar adjusting motors that the driver has some control over the track bar adjustment from the cockpit with a switch. We can still manually put the adjustments in the car now, but you got to push down on it and get it to engage.
Yeah, we usually only have that option at Daytona, and I think that's more of a safety thing, or at Daytona and Talladega. I think that we don't even have that for the road courses either, but usually there's not even a hole in the back glass to put that wrench into there.
Yeah.
So if the motor malfunctions, hey, he's on his own.
Yeah, he's got what he's got.
Yeah.
And we can adjust the car's attitude. We can make it loose or tight, into the corner, out of the corner, whatever the driver needs. So if the driver says it's too loose, he can throw a wrench in the back window to tighten the car up. If the car is too tight, he can throw a wrench in the back window to make it looser.
My favorite adjustment is just air pressure, because that way I don't have to do anything.
Yeah, that's the other way. And then we have a shock adjustment or a spring rubber. So there's not too much adjustment that we can make, but the adjustments that we can do usually make a big difference. Why rears over fronts? Was it just like necessity at the time, or?
Well, the first couple of years that I did it, I was doing fronts, and it I guess it all depends. Like, you have ups and downs with it. So clearing the car, actually not getting hit by the car is, kind of ideal. And you don't have to do anything. You just put a tire on and you carry on.
Mm-hmm.
So
the occasional tape or something like that.
I mean, maybe, well, now they have Packer, but they used to do shock adjustments in the front a little bit, but they didn't really do that when I first got started.
Mm-hmm.
So you had a lot of time. You can take your time getting back around the car to the left side. The only thing you got to really worry about is there's more camber on the left front. So when you go to put the tire on, you just have to push further with your bottom hand, your left hand, than you would the top. As far as the rears go, the tires are always straight. They're always in line. There's no camber, like they're not leaned. The downside is making adjustments, and you got to cater a little bit more to, there's more people, there's more things going on back there, so you have to watch out for your gas man. If he spilled any fuel, if you step in it, it's like stepping in an oil slick.
Yeah, it's bad.
It gets real slick real fast. The other thing is I have to leave you, my jack man, a lane for you to get in to get to the post to jack the car up.
On the left side, yeah.
Yeah, it just gets kind of tight, and it's mostly line of sight. So in the left front, you don't have anything right there. It's the nose radius is around, and it kind of disappears. So that can throw you off if you're not used to it. And it's really little things.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as like front versus rear, I don't know. I kind of like the rear. Like, the tires are never turnt. Like the driver doesn't have the wheel turn.
Mm-hmm. But there's one thing that the driver can do to affect your index.
Yeah.
They can throw it in gear while you have your hands on the wheel.
Yeah, that's my least favorite. Either that, or like I had a guy that I pit for a few years that would never, ever hold the brake when the left side of the car was up. As soon as the left side of the car came up, he stood on the gas, let off the brake. You know exactly who it is. So it kept happening and kept happening. I told crew chiefs, I told car chiefs, I told pit coaches. I was like, hey, man, tell that asshat to hold his foot on the fucking brake, right? So it kept going on and going on, and nobody said anything about it. So, we were having, it must have been like an early morning, a long day, something like that. And we were watching film on Monday. I said, hey, man, what were you doing? You look like you were saying something to him through the window. I was like, yeah, I was kindly reminding him to keep his foot on the brake. I think what I said was screaming, hold your foot on the brake, asshole. Because the second stop, because I did it the first stop to him, and then the second stop, he's like, hey, did somebody try to tell me something? Screaming, like fingers in the window net, screaming at him.
So when the tire carrier indexes the tire on the wheel, they're told to stay for 1, or in some cases stay for 2. So that what that means is the tire changer at least tightens 1 or 2 lug nuts. So while you have your hands on the wheel, you're holding the wheel on the car. The driver is told when the car drops on the right side, at that point the driver puts it in gear. If they don't and they put it in too soon, you have your hands on the wheels, and that when it locks into gear, the wheels shake.
It'll rotate.
Yeah, it'll rotate, what, about an inch maybe?
No, like a half a rotation sometimes.
Oh,
up to a half. It's fast and it hurts when they get.
Yes, yeah. I mean, pure torque of that 800 horsepower motor. Yeah. So it just rips it out of your hand, or just torques your whole body. It's not fun.
Tire stop. So if we do like right sides, and he didn't either leave it in gear or decides to put it in gear when that side's up. And hopefully, ideally, if he's going to do that, the best time to do it is when, like, after you pull it out, you can watch it rotate. You just kind of close your eyes and shudder a little bit and just stick it in there real quick. And
yeah, because your pattern's now moved. Yeah. So the pattern of the studs that you set up for to put the tire on has now rotated really fast one way.
Yeah.
So you have that to deal with.
It's, I guess there's a lot more to pit stops if you break it down and talk about all the things that could go wrong and don't. Because, we're really right on the ragged edge most of the time.
Yeah.
These guys are doing
you also have to worry about the car that's pitted behind you when they're pulling out.
Yeah.
When the driver that's in the pit stall to our right as you're looking towards the stands, when they pull out, the rear tire changer and the rear tire carrier are running around to the left side as that car's coming out. So you're staring at a headlight or a grill, sometimes chasing a tire, that it can get pretty tight back there.
Both of you were in Charlotte this year, right?
Yeah, we were.
And the guys behind us on our first stop, like, I drug my ass down the door.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
My greedy tire changer, loved me to death, decided it was time to go, and we're not going to wait on that side of the car, so he pushed me. You look like the fucking Heisman. It's time to go.
Stiff arm, yeah. Go. Yeah. Which, he couldn't see because you were standing there, and he doesn't realize why you're stopped, so he just throws up the hand. It's, hey, we got to go.
Because I looked up and I was like, yeah, that's coming right for us. And you're looking at a headlight, and my feet said no, but my head was like, go, go, go. Mm-hmm. But they didn't communicate, and I just stood there for a second, and my beloved tire changer said it was time to go, and he pushed me.
Have you ever been hit before?
Yeah.
When?
A couple of times. Like, I had Johnny Sauter ran me over, and when I was pitting his truck, I was carrying fronts at Richmond. He ran me over.
My driver.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I left on the hood with Ron Hornaday at Martinsville.
Carrying rears?
Carrying fronts.
Carrying fronts. Your own driver?
I was pulling tape, but they put tape on the far right side instead of the left.
Oh, wow.
Jack dropped, and he said, go. So he said, hey, man, get off the hood. So I went about, I don't know, a stall and a half almost. It was probably a stall. But he pushed off, and luckily pit road speed there is only like 30. Mm-hmm. We're like dead center of the corner, like stall 4 or whatever that is down there. So I got brushed at like 2 different road courses. I think it was like Watkins Glen was one of them. And then it must have been Road America was the other one. But I've never been like laid out. I think twice or maybe even 3 times this year I've like drug my ass down the door. Mm-hmm. I think twice was the damn 5 car. And then one was that one in Charlotte. That was pretty close as well. Mm-hmm. The one in Charlotte is pretty much the closest one this year. Because like I
had one. I had one when I was carrying fronts for Braun back in the old Braun days. It was at Bristol. Forget the car number, but I was carrying fronts. Tire changer pulled the old tire off, set it behind him, and kind of set it like 3 or 4 feet behind him.
On the right front?
Yeah. I indexed the tire and reached for the old one, and I was almost had my hand on it, and the car that was pitted in front of us came in and hit the tire. And that was back when they had officials on pit road before they have the video recording thing. Mm-hmm. So the official was, they always stood. They always
in your way.
Yeah. Well, they always stood like about where the grill of the car was, about 3 feet or 4 feet out away from the car, so they could kind of see down the right side of the car, and then as everyone moved around, they would move over to the left side, because that was back in the day when they would do all the stuff that the video stuff now. They would make sure that you didn't jump early, make sure that all the lug nuts was on, make sure that the car was actually in the stall and not over a line. So that was manpower back then.
Yeah.
So I reached down to grab this tire. The car that was pitted in front of us hits that tire, and it frisbees about 6 inches off the ground, and all he does is freezes and like sticks his hands down, and it takes his feet out from under him.
Oh, it knocked him out. Knocked him down.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, head over heels, took his feet right out from underneath him, and like I'm reaching for the tire, and that car hit it, and I pulled my hand back like I just stuck it in like a crocodile's mouth, and was like, yeah. And I watched the tire go, took him out, grabbed the tire, took it to the wall because I got to finish my job. Mm-hmm. Took the tire back to the wall, hung the left side, and the official was like crawling back, and I grabbed his fire suit and drug him out of the way of the car so our car could leave. so yeah.
Did he remain in that position?
Yeah, he was tore up. He just sat down on the wall and just kind of shook his head, and I mean, he was complete head over heels. I mean, completely upside down, back down, really bad.
Yikes.
Other than your pretty good hit earlier this year, have you had any other close calls?
Yeah, the one in Texas was pretty big, but two years ago in Daytona, Suarez missed his pit stall. Actually pulled into the wrong pit stall. Continued down a couple pit stalls because he couldn't get out because there was cars next to him. So I jump off the wall. It was him, my car, and the car that was pitted in front of us were 3 wide.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So as a jack man, I was in a tight spot because my car was in the middle of the 3 wide. So I jumped off the wall. I figured that the 19 car was going to stop. So I continued out. Because at that point, if the 19 had stopped, my car had pulled in around it, and I didn't go, I was going to be standing there on the wrong side of the car. So I had to go for it.
So did you go to the second car then? Like in the middle?
The exact opposite thing happened. The 19 kept coming. My car stopped, and the car in front of it, the car that was pitted in front of us that was on the far outside, kept coming. So I jumped out of the way of the 19, barely missed him. As I jumped out of the way, I jumped out in front of the 51 car. So I jumped, landed, and had to jump again. And as I was coming down, he stopped right underneath me, and I landed on top of his hood, got off the hood. By that point, my car was coming in, turned around, did the stop. So that was my only race that I'd ever wore a helmet cam.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and
the ESPN one?
No, this was it was the race team. They were doing a thing with the sponsors, and we all had helmet cams.
Oh, okay.
It was the one and only race I've ever wore a helmet cam. Was that one? The video was floating around for a little bit. Still might be on my Instagram, maybe farther back on my Twitter.
Okay.
But it was on YouTube for a while. But FS1 actually had me highlighted in the race breakdown after that, and they actually made me flash as I got out of the way of the 19. They cut away before I got hit by the 51, but
they always leave out the good parts. You know?
Yeah. So yes. So the only times I was actually hit was Daytona and at Texas.
Okay. Well, I've been pretty fortunate, like knock on wood.
Mm-hmm.
But they've been closer than I wanted them to be, but it hasn't been anything real bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, it's not something that you think about because
no, you kind of can't.
No, because if you think you're going to get hit, you're not going to jump off the wall.
Well, if you think you're going to get hit, you're probably going to get hit.
Or that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're going to freeze and get hit. It's just like if you think you're going to have a car accident on the way to work, you're not going to get in your car and drive to work.
Yeah.
You're not.
It's that.
You can't play scared.
Line. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's that fine line,
Yeah. You actually got a tattoo. You actually had 2 tattoos.
I got a few. Yeah.
On the 2 specific ones I'm talking about are on the right hand. I know no one can see it, but you want to talk about those?
Yeah, absolutely. So the tattoos on the top of my wrist, one of them has the medical alert symbol. And if you're not sure what that is, go ahead and Google it. Everybody's seen it. Mine says diabetic. And on the other side, in black letters, it says the struggle within. So that's kind of a friendly reminder to me to make right choices every day. I've been a type 1 diabetic since I was 3 years old. So just over 30 years. And it's been a long, adventurous journey. Some days are definitely harder than others. I'm sure you've seen a few of those.
Mm-hmm.
I try to hide it. I try to hide that, like, if I'm having a bad day and not feeling well, I don't really want people to know about it, But for, over 30 years of doing this and pitting cars at this level for this long, I think I've done a pretty good job taking care of myself. I'm pretty good about trying to inform people about it. Not only my situation, but I like hearing everybody else's situation too. Like everybody's got a story, like same thing with cancer patients,
mm-hmm.
You and I hold that pretty close to our hearts as well.
Yep.
I help out the JDRF in Charlotte. Great group of people. But the thing about the JDRF is that it is a Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. Great branch, great people. Got nothing but good things to say about them. So the branch in Charlotte started because once you're over 19 or 18, you're no longer a juvenile. So you're an adult that also has type 1. So none of the symptoms really change. None of the scenarios really change. It's kind of the same thing. So it's more like an adult group. I actually met up with them last Wednesday or Tuesday. They kind of do like a quarterly thing where they'll bring in some people to talk about this, that, or the other thing, and new products. And they actually have an insulin out right now that you can inhale. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Like it kind of looks like a whistle, like a coach's whistle.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a packet, and it looks like a foil packet of gum. Like if you pop the gum out with your thumb, that's what it looks like. And you put it in this whistle, close the top on it, and you inhale insulin. They said that it works about 50% faster than the stuff that I use now. Yeah.
Probably going in through the nose.
Yeah.
Has to be faster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on how that works. I actually need to do more research on it. But I right now have an insulin pump. I've been on that for 4 years, something like that.
So the other would replace the pump?
Yeah, they have, I would have to do 1 injection a day, and that would be like your basal rate. So that would keep your numbers on like a steady graph, like a straight line. So it's kind of just like a platform base for it. And then after every meal, or if it was too high, you would just take an inhaled insulin. So I guess they have like different packets. They have like a 4 unit, an 8 unit, a 12 unit. And I think somebody said like a 32 unit, which units probably don't mean anything to you if you don't know what it's talking about, but it's like a dose.
Mm-hmm. Is it like an IU or?
I don't know. It's just a unit.
It's just what he needs.
Yeah.
And he knows what that is.
Yeah. I should probably be able to explain that a little bit better, shouldn't I? We're an insulin pump, and I wear it all the time. I wear it during pit stops. I sleep with it 24/7. It's attached to me, and it looks like a pager. I've been called out on that quite a few times. Like, bro, why are you wearing a pager? Like, get in the now. I was like, thanks, dick. It's an insulin pump,
Yeah, you kind of put on like one of those chi strings.
Yeah, it's
around your chest during the pit stops.
It's like a runner's heart monitor strap, kind of. The reason I chose to leave it there is because I'm not going to hit it on anything. I mean, unless I really get into the car. But, you know, if you have it in your pocket, there's a chance that the tubing could get hooked on something, or, you know, you run into the car with the actual pump in your pocket, or hit it with a tire or jack handle, or, you know.
Yeah, I mean, hundreds of
things.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you're always there's always a panic mode at some point throughout the race where you need to do something.
Yep.
Like, caution's out and you're 10 pit stalls away taking a piss.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to come back. So it's always something. But it's, I like the pump. It's changed my life around quite a bit. I'm going to try this inhaled insulin just to see, you know, if it's any better or not. Because I mean, if the technology's out there, why not use it? I don't know. It's been a journey. I've kind of seen and done everything with it. My endocrinologist when I was a kid, which is my diabetic doctor, told me that I should write my own book, because when I was 9 years old, I was riding my bicycle and my blood sugar was like 30. You can go into a coma at 30. I didn't know. I couldn't feel it. Couldn't really tell, which is bad. But during the race, like, I keep my blood sugar between like 120 and 160 is pretty awesome. Like, I feel pretty good right around then. But like 30 is bad. Like, I start feeling bad when it's like 70 or above 200.
And because of technology, you have it right there on your iWatch.
Yes. So I bought the Apple iWatch, which Dexcom runs through this thing. And Dexcom is a continuous glucose monitor. So it's just this little, we call it a sensor.
And so the sensor's in your pump.
No, they're actually two separate things. So the sensor is a different site.
Oh, gotcha.
So I wear like two things stuck to my stomach. So one side or one area is the actual insulin pump, which delivers insulin like an IV. So there's a little cannula in there. It's like about a 1/4 inch long or so. So it's like an IV. It just, the needle comes out and the plastic piece stays in it. And the sensor, the Dexcom, it's crazy looking. So it runs in at like a 45 compared to like the outside of your body. And it looks like a very small car antenna. It's got like a barb on the end of it, or a ball on the end of it. And that's where it registers, is through that end. So it's a metal shard about 3/4 of an inch long, somewhere in there, that registers. It's the fluid between your muscle and your skin. So like if you get a scab or something and you knock the top half off of it,
there's like that water, that watery stuff.
Liquid comes out. That's exactly what it's registering, is that stuff. It's different technology, man. It's crazy. So like the first insulin pump they made was, I think, 1983. And if you've ever seen people that like spray for pesticides or like trying to kill grass in the yard with that big ass backpack on, that's exactly what it looked like.
Oh, what?
It had a handle with a pump on it.
Like that big?
Like it was that big. If you Google it, there's a picture of this guy in there. There's like little tubes coming off of it, and he's wearing this big ass backpack.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, it's come a long way. It's
so just cool. Like the phones used to have the pack phone, and now
brick, you know?
the pack phone now.
So how hard has it made it to travel and do your profession and monitor and take care of yourself? So
on the day or days leading up to the race, the day before, we usually race on Sunday. So like the day before, like Saturday, I make sure that, you know, I get up at a normal time, and I'll drink at least a gallon of water throughout the day, and probably like 1 or 2 sugar-free Powerades or sports drinks. That's just to kind of flush it out and try to hydrate for the next day, because we lose, what was it, anywhere from like 6 to 9 or 6 to 10 pounds of body sweat through like fatigue and actual physical labor.
Yeah, being in a fire suit in 100-degree weather.
Yeah. So days like Indy, we were at the racetrack physically inside Indianapolis Motor Speedway for 13 hours a couple weeks ago. I think I woke up that morning at like 3 or 3:30 to go to the airport, and I didn't get home till, I think it was about midnight. Pretty close, right? It might have been later than that.
So the mechanics usually fly out on Thursday or Friday. They're there for practice and qualifying and happy hour and all that stuff. The pit crew usually doesn't fly in until race day. So depending on what time of day that race starts, we have taken off anywhere from 5 a.m. to noon just depending on where it is in the country or what time that race starts. So Indianapolis was a 3:00 start. We flew out of Charlotte at 5. So in order to get up at 3:30 in order to make it there on time. It's a private plane. It's charter. So it's not like the commercial plane. It's a smaller airport that we fly out of.
Security's less.
Yeah, security's less, but I mean they still check everything. So basically, when the last person's on, they shut the door and go. It's very nice. It's very convenient, but it sets you up for a long day. And like he was saying, we were there 13 hours.
The garage opened at 9 that day. I think we walked in at about 10 till.
Mm-hmm.
We were walking up at that time anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it makes for a long day, and I knew it was going to be hot, so I made sure that I tried to hydrate as best I could. And like during the race, we only have, I think our particular cooler has Powerade in it,
mm-hmm.
and everybody else. I mean, it's either Powerade or Gatorade, depending upon what deal you're on.
Mm-hmm.
But all of them, if you look at them, you look at total carbs versus sugars, and they're the same number. They're in the little bottles, the 10 or 12 ounce bottles. It's like 29 carbs.
Okay.
It's 29 sugars. So to me, that's like pure sugar. So 9 times out of 10, I can't have that.
So time out. Why haven't you asked for them to purchase sugar-free stuff, or at least bring like a sugar-free?
Well, that's what I was getting at. I bring all my own stuff.
Okay. Oh,
so you see, that's what you get for not paying attention.
I'll just shut up.
Yeah. Guy, I was getting.
Yeah, sorry.
So I bring a lot of my own stuff. I use these salt stick tablets. So it's supposed to replenish electrolytes and help you with stamina and vitamin C and something else. I don't know. Half of it's probably bullshit. But the other half, like, I don't get cramped up or dehydrated doing it. So I take like 2 of them every hour or half hour. And then I also have these little electrolyte packets. It's a powder that you just dump into water. I like the orange flavor because the lemon lime tastes like poop. Those are the 2 that I've been using for years, and I just keep them stocked in my backpack, and
yeah,
I haven't had a problem with it. And if you've noticed too, I don't know if you have, but during the race, I always have my watch on me because my Dexcom runs right to my watch. I don't have to take my gloves off, so I don't put my phone up. I just turn my wrist and boom, there's a number.
Mm-hmm.
But I usually won't eat anything during the race either.
No. Usually we get meals at the halfway mark.
Yeah.
We'll get, we have a caterer that prepares all the food for us. So they'll bring out a tray of food, usually around halfway. Sometimes the race is longer than but I don't know what hours they have it set down to, but usually it's the halfway mark. If the race goes as scheduled, it's usually halfway. We'll get the Uncrustables and fruit and maybe sandwiches or
Yeah, they have these wraps lately that they've had.
Yeah.
I think what it is like slick meat and a slice of cheese and some other stuff, and they just roll it up.
Just something just to keep you full.
So you don't normally eat?
No. Mm-mm.
Interesting.
So I have a set schedule, and I always tell Zach, I'm like, we can't go eat yet. He's like, I'm hungry, let's go eat. I'm like, we can't eat yet.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
So, yeah. So,
Hey. Hey.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I know even him, during different, times of the year, dieting, whatever it might be, or just trying to eat healthy on the road, what a struggle that can be when everybody just wants to stop
yeah.
here, and that's not even needing to do it for a medical reason.
Yeah, that's just trying to eat clean and healthy.
And he's like, yeah, that's what I got today. So I couldn't imagine how
it's
stressful
really
that is to just take care of yourself, but you're just needing to do your job, and this is where we're stopping. So
yeah. And I don't know. Some days are harder than others, and I mean, I don't know. About 2 hours before the race, I'll eat and take my insulin, and the insulin that I'm on is Humalog, is what it's called. It's pretty much the best and fast acting stuff that they make for an insulin pump right now. So it's in and out of your system in 2 hours. So it's pretty much cashed out. So by the time that the race starts, I know where my numbers are going to be, and they're usually pretty steady about that time. So that's why I choose, 2 hours before we'll eat whatever, and I try to keep it low carb and a little more protein, usually, because I know how that affects me, and I know how that's going to affect the rest of my day. And obviously, like rain delay stuff or like night races, we'll kind of mess with it a little bit. I always have all the same stuff. Like I got a mental thing where I have to chew gum during stop. Like I always have gum in my mouth during a pit stop.
Sugar-free gum, obviously.
Yeah. It's delicious.
So you said that you usually you're paying attention more to the carbs, right? Because if something has like 20 carbs but only like 8 grams of sugar, you're paying attention to the carbs, right?
Right.
Okay, why the carbs over the sugars if it's...
So I asked that same question, but that's how the pump runs. It runs off total carbs. So you could have whatever. So, I mean, there might be other things in there, like fiber offsets it. And some people on certain diets, they're like, oh, it's got 30 carbs, but there's like 5 grams of fiber, so that's only like 25. No, it's 30, bro. I'm telling you.
That's what, because when you're like bodybuilding or anything like that, when you're watching a diet, they've always said that you have the fiber, but then you subtract the number of fiber away from your carbs. And then, so if you're at like 300 carbs for the day or whatever, and you have 50 grams of fiber, you only had 250 grams of carbs for that day.
Yeah, not so much in my case.
No.
I know a lot of other diabetics are different. And I mean, I'm always willing and love to talk to other type 1s. Like I love hearing everybody's story and how they got to where they're at and what they're doing. Like, oh, like what pump do you have? Like, who's your doctor? Like, where do you go? Like, how long? Like, what works for you? What do you do for this, that? And you trade secrets and tricks of the trade, really. But it's kind of it's a big community. It's like a big family. So
basically, you have it like all mapped. Like, you probably know off the top of your head, if you eat this, it's going to affect you this way.
Yes, pretty much. And then what else is crazy about it is, because we've kind of had a bit of a long week, or I feel like I've had a long week inside the race shop and out. But there's things to where that it'll affect me the next day. So today, for instance, we left the shop. We had practice. We worked out. I grabbed lunch, and then I went to go to my buddy's race shop because I wrapped some of their cars. So we don't paint cars anymore. We just put big stickers on them. So wrapped a car and then like part of their hauler, and just being active all in the afternoon, my blood sugar just runs low in the afternoons. I know it. So I bring snacks with me all the time. But if I have a long day and I'm just go until I go to sleep, the next day it also affects me. Or like if we work out really, really hard, like on a Tuesday, on Wednesday, I'm still kind of struggling. It feels like I'm still burning all those carbs. Like my body hasn't caught up yet. And I can feel it like on some days. I think it's like Monday or Tuesday, I had a long day, and I think we worked out real hard. We did that real like upper body. Like that night, it was just low. I couldn't get it caught back up. And you're trying not to overdo it, but you're still trying to like remember, oh, okay, I had this. I know that's 30 carbs. I had, like this candy that I know had, 35 carbs in it. So you're trying to add all that up, and you want to take more insulin with it. You look at your pump and you're like, I should probably do this, but you're knowing in the back of your mind that you've been nonstop all day and it hasn't slowed down, and you like don't even need any insulin. I wrapped a car last week where I had lunch. It was a pretty decent lunch, and I didn't take any insulin, and I unhooked my pump for like 3 hours, and I was fine. I think my blood sugar ran like 110 for most of the afternoon.
So that's where your tattoo really comes in, the struggle within. It's that
every day is a science experiment. No lie. Like I could wake up at the same time every day. I could have the same thing for breakfast, the same amount. I could do the same workout. I could do the same thing for lunch. And like my numbers will be different throughout the whole day.
Wow. So you can't even,
crazy.
So you can't even get them like a schedule.
Well, I try to keep a schedule because it works better for me, and I think most type 1s it works better for them. And we share a lot of things like that too, just throughout the type 1 community.
So you find stuff that you have familiar with other type 1s without even.
Yeah, and then I've had like ex-girlfriends tell me things too. Like, you're really an asshole when your blood sugar is too high. I'm like, yeah, sorry about that. I'm like, do I blame that on my blood sugar or is blame that on something else? It does. It affects your attitude and like everything affects it. So the amount of sleep you had, so that's why like the day before a race, I try so hard to make sure that everything is right. So that way I set myself up for success the next day. And sometimes the struggle within, you got to bullshit your way into feeling like pretending like you feel okay. Because I know, like, I had a day where I struggled, like I was up and down. Like I think the day before, like my blood sugar was like 300 and something, and then it was like 40, and then it was like back up. It was up and down, and I think I have an alert on my sensor. So if it gets above a certain number, it sets off an alarm. If it gets below a certain number, it sets off an alarm, and it does it every 30 minutes until it gets back into the gray area, the neutral area. So it's kind of a saving. It's like a security blanket, I guess, for me. Because before that, I really used to never sleep real hard. And now I'm like, I'm going to sleep. Just pass out with it.
So before, you were just straight up...
I used...
straight up injections, right?
Yep. Used injection. I was on... I think right before I got on the pump, I was on like 4 to 6 injections a day. And like when I was a kid, I used to do 2. So I'd mix like a short acting and a long acting in the morning with breakfast. And then I would test my blood sugar at lunch. And then I wouldn't take anything then. And then like at dinner or like just after dinner, I would take a short and long acting again. It's kind of a pretty old school way to do it.
Mm-hmm. Do you still carry all that stuff with you in case your pump kills out on you?
I had an issue in Michigan 2 years ago with my pump. And I'm actually on pump number 2. So that pump took a shit. Mm-hmm. So I had...
in the middle of a race?
No, it was before. It was right before. So, we get to the racetrack and we get all of our stuff set up. We get our pit box set up, our tires out, get everything prepped and ready to go. So we get to a point to where we can kind of take a break. So we took a break and we got breakfast real quick. So I think we got into the racetrack at like 6 or something like that. And we ate at like 9 maybe. And I think it was like scrambled eggs and some turkey sausage or maybe just regular sausage, whatever. And I went to go push buttons on my pump. And I was like, this thing's not working. Like I just ate. So I'm like, we need to take some insulin. Which it wasn't a whole lot. It was only probably a couple units, 3 maybe. And I had an error code show up. It says button error. I'm like, I've never seen that before. So I called the company. And you got to sit on hold with those guys for a while. So I'm sitting in the hauler. I'm like, on hold. I was like, hey, I got a problem. They're like, oh, yeah. So, that one's broken. We're just going to send you a new one tomorrow. I was like, no. I need one today. Like, you can't fix this over the phone today. I'm like, why would it do that? They're like, well, you're not supposed to leave it touched against your skin. I'm like, let me get this straight. Hang on a minute. I'm like, I have to wear this thing 24/7. I'm supposed to sleep with it. I do everything but like shower and fornicate with this pump, right? Don't let it touch your skin. I'm like, fuck you. Come on. Really? That's what they told me. They're like, oh, the button error, it probably got moisture in it. And I was like, well, I'm surprised it took that long. I really am.
Because you hide this thing, because you hide it underneath a fire suit every weekend, and it's basically in a greenhouse.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. And then, we work out X amount of days a week and it's getting sweat all over it throughout the day, 3-4 days a week there. And then at the racetrack. So I was like, I'm surprised it made it that long. But they did a really good job. Like they overnighted it to me. It was at my door at like 10 a.m. the next morning. But for the remainder of the day, I had to go old school. And you don't know how... It's like leaving your house without your cell phone. You don't realize how much you use it until you're like, oh shit, I don't have that.
Yeah. Like
you use it for everything. So I didn't know. And at that time I used a sensor that coincided with that pump. It was kind of a piece of shit, but it was the best I had for that time. Until I got this new one. But so when the pump crapped out, so I had to take that out, and then the sensor was useless too. So all it did was kept showing up that error code on the pump. So I just took both of them out, I put them in my bag, and I carry this. It looks like a makeup bag, and it might even be a makeup bag. I think I got it from Target. Real nice, real classy. It's probably on sale.
The pink flyers are a dead giveaway.
Is it? See, the lady told me that it was probably okay that I used that.
No one's gonna steal it.
Yeah.
That's right.
I just wanted her to like knit my name into it or embroider it. Ethan's Beatus bag. So this bag has everything you can need. It has like a backup infusion set, which is like the piece that delivers the insulin into me. It has a backup sensor. So if mine falls out or, something happens where it gets tore out, I can put a new one in before the race. It takes 2 hours for it to like boot up. It has to sync with my body, which is it's like a startup time kind of. And then, worst case scenario, like if that falls out during the race, and I've done it before where, you sweat so bad that nothing sticks to you. And I use a rock tape. A lot of like athletes use that to hold their stuff down, or if they have like muscle soreness, I guess it helps with stability.
Mm-hmm. I've been using it now for my hand.
Yeah, well, you're like the kinetic tape or something, right?
Yeah,
same thing.
Yeah, same thing.
So I really like it because it breathes really well, and you don't have to remove it. They said you can wear it until it falls off. So some weeks I can wear it all 7 days because that's the length of one sensor is 7 days. So I put that over the sensor, and then over my actual like insulin pump set, I cut another piece and I put that over it. That's done a world of good for me. It's kept a lot of them in there. But some days like nothing sticks to you, where was I going with that? Sorry.
You were talking about your makeup bag.
Oh yeah, the makeup bag. Like, oh look, a quarter. Like a 9-year-old, I just like forget. So the makeup bag has everything in it. So it even has the vial of insulin that I'm currently using, and then a bunch of syringes in case like everything falls out or there's a malfunction or whatever. And I even have a backup. They call it a remote. So when you get the sensor, it comes with this piece. It's about 2 inches tall by 4 inches long, and like a half an inch thick. And it's the actual piece that goes to the sensor. The cool thing about Apple is they had partnered up with Apple and Dexcom. So Dexcom is the name brand of that sensor that I'm on. I think they're making stuff for Androids now too, but I know that they're exclusive with Apple at the moment. So there's an app for it. It runs right through my phone. I just put in the serial number that's on that sensor. It goes to that, and then it just links right to my phone. That's the whole reason I got the Dexcom system. I love it. It's actually much, much more accurate than the previous one that I was on. It makes me feel better and more confident about it. So you feel a little bit more normal, like if you can, so like if you're out with your friends hanging out, or you go to dinner, or just hanging out here, you just look at the watch or your phone, and it's kind of like incognito almost. It's super sneaky.
Since we're talking back about that show, Zach, the first pump.
Oh, that was a long time ago. That's like the 50s.
No, that's 83.
That's 83?
I think it might have said 78.
Was it really?
That's a black and white picture. That's
Either
a long
way.
time ago.
Yeah, they make it look cool.
63.
Was it really that
63,
long?
the first prototype of a
There you
quote-unquote pump.
See, that's why we need you to fact check stuff, 'cause I don't know.
1973, Dean Kamen invented the first wearable infusion pump. In 76, Auto Syringe Inc. began to manufacture and market the pumps Dean Kamen invented. So I think it was...
Where did I get 83 from? But you said bigger
early
thing was-
insulin pumps, 1970s. So
Wow.
that is,
Look how
either
big
way,
that thing was. It was
83
like a-
to 73. I mean,
But
it's
still.
come a long way.
Yeah, I mean, this
to
is
where
like
you're
a full...
at.
Yeah, I got something that looks like a pager. That looks like that guy should be spraying for pesticide.
Yeah, that's a full-blown
Almost
backpack.
big.
Yeah.
I mean, it's shoulders the belt,
Yeah.
big box that he has on.
I would
That's
say
exactly
it's
the
like
picture I'm
having an
talking about.
old VCR,
Yeah.
like as a backpack.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like the technology on it doesn't look in the 70s. It looks like in the 50s. It looks like pre-rocket era.
Probably. I mean, it
Tech
probably
is what
took
it
them
looks like.
that long to get it approved. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the FDA has a big like stranglehold on a lot of stuff that could be used, or the technology that's out there that we could use. And I mean, like, that's one of the cool things about a stem cell is that they could take your stem cells and grow a pancreas in a tank.
Yeah.
And within 2 years, they can stick it inside you.
And it would work.
And it would work.
And it would be yours. Your body would.
Yep. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's just.
I mean, that was like one of the good things that Obama did was he helped out with the stem cell deal, push that forward.
So, okay, why not get a pancreas transfusion donor, whatever you get?
The last time I checked on it, and I was a kid, and I'm going off of information that my parents gave me because I really haven't looked since then. But it was like $10,000 to get on a transplant list. And then you run the risk of it not matching or it working for a little while, and then your body rejects it.
Yeah.
So that was always kind of a fear of mine. And I mean, you probably got a pretty decent sized scar from it.
Would you rather have the scar or?
Well, that's very, good point. But there's this other thing that they're doing now. It's a little older technology, but it's still relatively new. It's an islet transplant. So they'll inject islets into your, another organ, like not your kidneys, but your liver, I think, into your liver. And that it'll produce insulin for 5 years.
Really?
Yeah. That's $10,000.
Because I knew that you were coming on, I looked on the news, I just typed in type 1 cure and looked in the news, and there was some news that came out in the end of July, and they were talking about taking your T cells out and you spin them and you do something to them and then you put them back in, and then they'll actually start creating the insulin. That's
the islet transplant?
Yeah, that you need. Yeah. I mean, it's close, but they said it's really expensive, and there's not that many T cells, so it's like, hard to do or whatever.
Yeah. It's still a relatively new procedure. I know one person that has done it. Was a buddy of mine at ESPN. He used to run the camera for them all the time when ESPN was like doing nationwide or Xfinity races and stuff like that. His daughter is like an all-star volleyball player in Ohio, I think is where they're from. She was like 16 or 17. And she'd go to a couple of races with them in the summertime. I got to meet her and talk to her, and I think I follow her, or we follow each other on like Twitter and Facebook. But she did that, and she said that she loved it, and she's like gone all state, and I guess she was like number 2 in the nation for like 3 years running.
Wow.
For like high school volleyball. She's been a type 1 since she was 8 or 9. What I think was cool too, and we were talking about earlier, is that there's not a whole lot of type 1s out there, like especially in NASCAR. So you have Ryan Reed, who's a driver. He does the injections, and he wears a Dexcom sensor. Miguel Paludo is type 1. He used to drive trucks. Yeah.
Jamie Dick. I don't know if it was type 1 or type 2.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah, that happened in the middle of the race in Phoenix.
Yeah.
That was a
big, I haven't seen him since.
No. I think for years. I think he retired because of it. That was I'm pretty sure it was Jamie Dick. Might be misremembering. But yeah,
that was it 2015, diagnosed with onset diabetes.
Yeah, that was in the middle of the race. It was
you were pitting him, weren't you?
Yeah, it was the second Phoenix race.
So like November.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were racing, and there was a really long green flag run, and the spotter come across the radio and said, "Hey man, you all right?" And usually that means that the car went away from him and they're not handling it all right. And he kind of paused, and he came across the radio and said, "Man, I'm just real hot. I'm just very hot." And he's like, "Yeah, man." And you're in Phoenix, so you're not really thinking anything of it. It's like, yeah, it's hot out there. Long green flag run. A lot of, the car builds up a lot of heat. And what was actually happening from the spotter's standpoint was basically falling out of the seat is what we call it. Is when a driver gets tired or gets hot, you just can't drive it anymore.
I've actually had to pull guys out of a car.
Yeah, and he was
Keegan dizziness, and again, you're in Phoenix and you're hot.
Yeah,
which is also
and he was literally kind of riding the wall. He said that he like moved out close to the wall, so in case he crashed, he wasn't going to hit the wall that hard. But he was scrubbing the wall,
which is kind of smart.
And the spotter was saying, "Hey, man, you know, you okay?" And he's like, "Man, I'm just, you know, it's really hot." And the spotter said, "Hey, as soon as the race is over, you know, get to the car, you know, tell the paramedics to come, you know, give him an IV or whatever." And I guess he went to the hospital. And that's when he found out. So I mean, that's scary because I mean he could have passed out, and I mean you're going at Phoenix, you're still doing what, 130?
Yeah, I think at the end of like going into turn 1 is probably over 120.
Do you pass out going down the front stretch at Phoenix? You're gonna hit the wall hard.
I mean, it's gonna hurt.
Yeah, it's gonna hurt big time. And
so it was type 1.
Yeah,
and he felt really bad during the race. Wasn't in focus. He felt really weak.
So. Okay, so you got diagnosed at 3.
Yeah.
You just said that
he was 26.
He was 26. The other girl was 9. What is it? Just one day that your pancreas stops working?
Yeah. Usually, type 1 is linked to like a hereditary thing. So my grandfather had it on my dad's side. Mm-hmm. And I can't remember further down the line who was before him. So. My dad's fine. All of his sisters are fine. My siblings are fine, and all of their kids are fine. It's really weird. It usually skips a generation. They said that some of it, there's some study going on where it's also linked to an early childhood trauma. Like I caught a concrete block to the skull from the second story at like 3-ish or whatever. I was calling my dad in for dinner, and he was like throwing one out of the attic. So houses in the Midwest back in the day had a hole in the side of the house that you had to put a ladder up against. Throw one out, and I caught one in the head. That could have been a trigger, but
wow,
I don't know. But I mean, it really can happen at any age. I know, you know, most of the time it's kids, like pre-adolescent. Mm-hmm. So under 13 is usually when you're diagnosed. I know teens that have been diagnosed. There's this woman in my group. She was diagnosed at like 24 or 25, and she actually went blind because she refused to take insulin and take care of herself.
I've heard people, you know, having to get legs amputated or what, or like
usually that's type 2, and type 2 and type 1 I personally think should be called something totally different. Type 2 is more of a, you kind of brought that on yourself kind of deal, where it's just like a poor diet, poor exercise. You're usually obese, and your pancreas is trying to produce as much insulin as it can for a long time, and it just kind of falls out.
Yeah, I was looking at it. It's like more of like an insulin resistance.
Yes.
Basically. So the insulin that your body is producing isn't good enough or not enough.
Mm-hmm. So it kind of like makes your pancreas fail. So diabetes, type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease. So my pancreas doesn't produce the beta cells that produce insulin to break down anything that I eat. So I mean, your body,
the sugar that's in your blood. So it's the balance between the insulin and the sugar, right?
Yeah. Well, I try to explain to people, if you're a car guy, it's like a carburetor. So insulin is like oxygen, and fuel is like
sugar.
Yeah, sugar or food and carbs, whatever. Mm-hmm. So you need the right balance to meet stoichiometric efficiency.
Hey,
how about that?
So if you got too much fuel, you're running too rich.
Yes.
If you're running too much air, you're running too lean.
So I really like talking to kids that are newly diagnosed. I'm a certified mentor for the JDRF. I got sworn in a couple years ago, and I was actually one of the founding members of that group, the Act 1 in Charlotte. So talking to like parents of like, let's say a 5-year-old that's diagnosed, they're like, I just want to know like what he or she is feeling or what's going on when their blood sugar is low. It's like, it's a very interesting time. You appear like, if you saw me in the street somewhere and you didn't know anything about it and you didn't know me, you'd be like, man, that guy's drunk. He is wasted, because you get disoriented, you get dizzy, you get lightheaded, you get very confused, your balance is off, and you're kind of like looking at stars. One of my horror stories, working with that first team, Curb, back in the day on that blue 43 car, I got lost at the Phoenix airport. Lost as fuck.
Sky Harbor?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I saw my doctor a couple weeks before that, and they're like, you really need to take your insulin 30 minutes before you eat. I was like, hey guys, are we going to stop? They're like, yep, we're going to stop before we're leaving the hotel. They said, we're going to stop before we get to the airport. Then they decided halfway there, like, yeah, we're not going to stop. Can't do it. I'm like, yeah, we do. I'm like, I just took some insulin, back when you're mixing all your stuff together and trying to catch that spike on a graph, to keep it from going too high. So I have never since that day taken insulin before I eat. Even with my pump, I'll eat and then I'll take insulin. I won't do it. So I don't even remember getting out of the rental car. I don't remember walking into the airport. I do not remember going through TSA. I don't remember getting my bag checked. I just remembered I was on the second floor and my teammates found me. They're like, "Hey, idiot, what are you doing? Where are you going?" I'm like, "Oh, no idea. I don't remember any of it." So I had a teammate that was like, "Hey, you're fucked up." That's what he told me. He's like, "You're fucked up." I'm like, "Uh-huh." And he's like, "Is your blood sugar messed up?" And I was like, "Uh-huh." And like, you can't make out words. And I've seen other type 1s. They're like, "I want some milk." Like, all right, this dude never drinks milk, but here. And then they get pissed that you bring them milk because they wanted orange juice, but they just couldn't say orange juice.
Wow.
So orange juice is my go-to. I have orange juice in my house, in my fridge. Like, if I wake up in the middle of the night, chug a bunch of that, pour a glass, whatever.
40 grams of carbs in a cup, right?
Yep. It's a quick fix, and it's liquid, so your body doesn't have to break it down. It's just boom, boom, in and out. So I ended up crushing like a huge Cinnabon in Phoenix at the airport. And then I got 3/4 of the way through it, and it feels like you got hit in the head. Because like that sugar rush just skyrockets your blood sugar. You're like, oh man. So it's like a sugar hangover.
The ultimate sugar rush.
Yeah. Cinnabon will do it. I'll tell you. That stuff saved my life that day. So
you poster child right there.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll be like, all right.
Hey.
Are you feeling low? Get you a Cinnabon.
Like the Happy Gilmore Subway commercials.
Hole in one.
I eat two every day to help keep me alive.
Now, if I did that now, I'd go way too far the other way.
Yeah.
But I mean, you do appear drunk, and I used to have a medical alert bracelet that said, and it actually had a card. It was in my wallet for a long time. It said, "I am not intoxicated. I'm a type 1 diabetic. Call like paramedics or a doctor or somebody." So, I mean, you appear that way, and like attitude comes into it. So you get real snappy.
You get hangry, basically.
Yes, it's like an extreme form of being hangry, for sure. And when it's too high, I feel, and I know like other type 1s have some of the same symptoms, and like they've actually changed and or evolved throughout the years too. But I talk with type 1s about what they use to like pick them back up, or what they feel like, just to kind of get a comparison. Share the same thing in a lot of different areas, but when it's too high, like you feel hungover real bad, like you're kind of lazy, lethargic, you're thirsty, your body's sore. Like my quads and my triceps are sore, like I got punched in them.
Wow.
So you just feel drained, and even at certain times when it's a little too high or higher than you want it to be, you just kind of get a little nauseous. So sometimes I'll take a bunch of insulin and I'll chug some water, and I'll actually lay down. Like I'll take a nap if I have time. And that you kind of gives your body time to catch back up or get that insulin in, and let it start working and you start feeling better. But it's weird. It's different. And I mean, it's one of those things where, I don't know. When I was a kid, I kind of got shamed a lot for it because I didn't know a single other type 1 until I moved here, until I moved to North Carolina. But I mean, like, you got Wisconsin. That's a big girl state. You know what I mean? So you'd think there'd be plenty of type 1s up there, but there's not. So I went to a couple camps and stuff when I was a kid. I think like 2 or 3, and I was like, yeah, it sucked. I don't want to do that again.
Well,
but it's different now.
Yeah, I seen a stat online that was 36 million worldwide out of 7 billion. So it's really not that many. They said that one in 10 Americans have diabetes. But that's all types.
Yeah, that's type 1 and type 2.
Yeah, type 1, type 2. There's a gestational diabetes,
yeah, that's when you're pregnant.
No, I didn't have it then. That's what when I was younger, I had like low blood sugar, and I always had to have snacks, and I would get very hangry. Like Mom would be shopping way too long at the store, and I thought I was dying.
Right. So
and just wanted to lay there and scream at her for not leaving. early 20s in college, they said I was pre-diabetic. So I just kept being on these borderlines. I was active. I cheered, gymnastics. Like there was not what you were saying. You know, there would have been no real reason. Nobody understood why, and took glucophage for a few years. It just dissipated. They got real worried when I was pregnant because I had these like little precursors of things. That never ended up happening, but it does happen to a lot of women. And they have to monitor a lot of that once they get pregnant. That
so it says
mess things up.
It says that pre-diabetes is your blood sugar's too high. If you're hypoglycemic, your blood sugar's too low.
Correct.
Yeah, and they say when you're younger, that's what they were telling me. They thought I was on my way to being one because sometimes that's what will happen. You'll show those symptoms when you're younger, and then it flips. So then I'm 20. And I was having those issues and on medicine for it. And they were really thinking that I was heading down the path of having it.
So is it as simple as having pre-diabetes, staying away from sugary stuff, and hypoglycemic, eating some sugar?
I mean, I think it's a little bit more to it than that.
I mean,
But, yeah, I mean, from the outside looking in, kind of. I mean, obviously, if you sit around, if you're like Colin and you eat 12 Krispy Kremes in one sitting, not only because we challenge him, but because that's what he does.
he's got a sweet tooth.
He does, and I really think that some days he's a little hypoglycemic.
Well,
but his like metabolism is through the freaking roof.
Yeah, I mean, I was seeing the symptoms was just starting to pop up, and it said that the side effects of being hypoglycemic is you get shaky and you get
kind of cold sweats,
and that's exactly what happens to me. Like if I work out, okay, so say that we do practice, we watch, we do our workout, and then we watch film from the race before. Okay, so I normally don't eat breakfast. I do intermittent fasting. So I don't eat until 11 o'clock, usually. So if we do practice, and it's a long practice, a long workout, long film, and we don't get out of there till like 11 or 12, I kind of get that dizzy, lightheaded feeling, and I start sweating like a weird almost like a hot flash, cold flash type thing,
and you get really panicky.
Super irritable, like everything's like
You're like, feed me now.
That's blood
sugar, friend.
I remember sitting in the mall once, and I like crunched myself in this corner under clothes. Like I couldn't physically take what was around me in like third grade. So that's why everybody else went out to recess. Brittany got to sit in and have another snack for the day because I couldn't make it from lunchtime to the end of the school day without that kind of feeling in third grade.
Yeah, I mean,
like, what's wrong with you? We couldn't do anymore.
And I never really noticed it until I really started doing the intermittent fasting stuff. So basically, intermittent fasting is an eating window. So there's like a certain amount of hours throughout the day that you get all your calories for the day. So from 11 to 7, that's when I eat 2 meals, 3 meals, 4 meals, 5 meals, whatever. I only eat from 11 o'clock in the morning to 7 o'clock at night. So I'll eat my first meal at 11 and my last meal before 7, won't anything else until the next day. Get up, work out, practice, do the whole thing. That's what I've found.
I couldn't function in the morning if I didn't eat.
Well, yeah, but that's kind of
doing that for a
it's kind of given. But
you have a strict
but I like it because it's.
Do you feel better after you eat though? Like you feel kind of rejuvenated?
Yeah, I feel full, but I don't get the sluggish feeling. So if I eat breakfast, I'll be hungry immediately, like an hour and a half, 2 hours later. I have a tendency to overeat. When you do like the bodybuilding 6 meals a day, I'll still be hungry, and I'll overeat my target calories for the day. Okay. So I shorten that window and eat, instead of 6 small meals, I eat 2 to 3 big meals, and I get all my calories in those days. But doing fasted cardio, fasted workout, fasted practice, I feel better. I feel like I can move easier, move better. I'm still sleepy, but I drink some coffee and and everything's fine. But I get that one big meal and then I'm full, and then I'm really not hungry. So I eat 11. I'm really not hungry till 4 or 5. And then eat a banana, eat something small, and then eat dinner, and then I'm done. and I'm fine. But once I started doing that, I noticed that once I started to get past that 11 o'clock hour, starting to get at 12, sometimes 1, depending on what it is, then that's when I get that.
I gotta eat now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that's what it is. But you get that, I'm not starving.
Yeah, but you panic though.
Yeah. You get that hot sweat, you get that dizziness, you get that irritability, and you're just like, gotta eat. Come on, let's go. We gotta eat.
That struggle, I mean, I think every type 1 battles with that struggle. Like, if it's low, and like, especially the worst time that it happens at any time throughout the day is like when you're asleep and you wake up because your alarm is going off and your blood sugar is telling you, hey man, you need to eat. So you get up and it's low, it's like 50. So you get panicky and you're like, oh shit. So you like cram face with anything you can find, orange juice, whatever's around. My roommate works at a bakery.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, so there's,
baguettes and
pound cake and chocolate covered sugar rolled balls of cookie dough that you can barely fit in your
Sounds
mouth.
great.
Yeah,
but it's
so you cram
you don't want that.
but it can be torture for you sometimes.
Yeah, well, I don't really have a sweet tooth.
No,
I really don't know because I know what it does to me.
I would. Yeah, there's
But I mean,
there's a natural thing, but
You overeat, and that's what so you got to try to figure out exactly how many carbs you need, and then you got to wait like 20 minutes.
Let's see.
It's 3 a.m. You don't want
Right.
to wait 20
And then that
minutes.
ruins your day. Like you said, your routine or your sleep. Like you've already, that's now altering what your next day or the next day is going to look like, or your routine moving
So
forward.
like an hour later, your blood sugar went from 50 to like 250, 300, 350. And you're like, fuck, that was too much.
Mm-hmm. So like in your younger, wilder days when you'd be out at the club or out at the bar all night, like
Waffle House?
like, can you drink that much or like?
So,
because isn't there like sugar alcohol and that whole alcohol sugars?
Sugar alcohol is just for cooking.
Gotcha.
Well, alcohol or sugar in it?
There
Or is
certain
there
like if
certain
you're
choices?
I see it on gum. I see the sugar alcohols on like gum.
That's that aspartame kind of
Gotcha.
dry taste.
Gotcha. Okay.
Kind of that's what that is. A lot of if you look at sugar-free candy, it has a ton of sugar alcohol in it, right? So it doesn't make my blood sugar any higher as long as it's still kind of low carb. But I will tell you that Russell Stouffer's have gotten a lot better with their sugar-free candy over the years. When I was a kid, it tastes like cardboard.
I remember that whole section, like on an end cap.
Yeah.
Sugar free.
Well, all the healthy stuff has gotten better throughout the years.
That's nice.
Being from Wisconsin,
Oh yeah,
land of the beers.
yeah. So beer has a lot of carbs in it, and it breaks down differently in your body. And I usually stick to whiskey, and I'll have whiskey on the rocks because, if you're out at an establishment, who knows if you don't watch them pour it, or if they have one of the fountain push button things, you don't know if it's diet that's coming out of there or pure Coke syrup that we dump in the pit stall.
Yeah.
So I usually just stick to whiskey on the rocks, and I know that doesn't affect me. But if we're, if you're grilling out or you're at a baseball game or something like that, and you're gonna have a beer, I know exactly that a Bud Heavy is 2 units of insulin for every 2 beers.
The regular,
Like can size?
Yeah, the 12 ounces.
well, the regular red label Budweiser.
Right, I know that
Budweiser,
part.
yeah.
I was just saying, how much is 2 beers? But
2
12
beers.
ounce
2
cans.
beers is 28 carbs.
Gotcha.
So it's 14 carbs per 12 ounces of Budweiser. Whiskey.
But didn't you say there was also some kind of trick you can do to take more insulin or whatever, and then you could drink
To offset it? Probably. Are we experimenting? Yes. It is Thirsty Thursday.
Yes, it is. It is for sure.
I just know that I feel better about myself, and my blood sugar is more stable when I stick to things like whiskey. If it's beer, if we're grilling out, at a social event or a baseball game or something like that, I just know I have to kind of pace myself with that with beer because
You can get carried away really quick.
yeah, I mean, you're having a good time, you're hanging out with your people and whatever else, and I really try to be responsible about it, and especially if you don't have decent transportation.
Yeah, there's that.
Obviously Uber. But I just know that beer makes my blood sugar much, much, much higher than I want it to be. So I either only have, 2 or 3, or I'll have 1 or 2 and I'll wait a while. Like I'll skip everybody else's 1 or 2 rounds. And then I'll make sure that my blood sugar catches back up to where I need it to be in my comfort zone. And then I might have 1 more. But like after 3 beers, I take like 2 units per beer after that usually. Because it kind of catches up with it. And I always say like alcohol kind of treats your body differently, but me personally, I don't see much of it doesn't like crash out, because a lot of people, will drink their face off all night.
Yeah.
And then they just kind of crash out. Like the alcohol absorbs everything else, and then it like makes your blood sugar go way too low. Mm-hmm. In my case, it doesn't do that for me.
You were saying that the type 2, do you know if there's a way to develop the type 2 other than just kind of letting yourself get out of hand?
No, not really. That's kind of how it happens. You just kind of let yourself go in most cases. There are other issues like the endocrinologist takes care of diabetics and people with thyroid issues. So a lot of times later in life, like I could develop a thyroid issue. I'd see the same doctor.
Yeah.
They kind of go hand in hand. So, I mean, like if you have a thyroid issue later in life, you'll more than likely develop type 2. It's just kind of a side effect of it. And then there's one other autoimmune disease. I can't remember what it's called. But it's quite similar to that, where you have an allergic reaction to certain things, like certain foods. So it's almost like a gluten allergy. I can't remember what it's called. I should probably know this. Like I'm the veteran here. Like I'm like
you're the expert.
Yeah, right. There's this other thing I can't remember.
He's just busy worrying about himself daily.
Yeah, pretty much.
To get through every day.
That's true. I mean, that's that.
A lot.
New stuff comes up, and I'm like, I should probably look into that. And then it's like, a couple months later, I'm like, I should probably look into that. Sometimes I actually look into it. But there are cases of type 2 diabetics that can reverse it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can kind of get yourself out of it. So like let's say I got a buddy. He's actually a fuel man. He's been a fueler for many, many years. I worked with him when I was at Roush. That's how I met him. You still see him on pit road. He's wearing an old Roush fire suit every week.
Okay, yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Good guy. I like him a lot.
Real good guy.
He said that they put him on insulin for a little while. He said he wasn't feeling well. I'm like, yeah, that's because your blood sugar's too high. He's like, oh, yeah. So I talked with him about that, and like we've talked outside of the track about stuff like that too. And he changed his diet, and he exercised, and I think he lost like 60 pounds. Come down in weight pretty good. And he said that they took him off of insulin shots, and they put him on like metformin. It's a pill form, so it's like a once in the morning pill. Mm-hmm. And they said that they were talking about taking him off of that too.
Yeah,
there's been other.
Isn't there like a mainstream type 2
metformin?
medicine?
I think is what it's called.
Metformin.
Metformin. Yeah, don't ask me how to spell it. I don't know. It could be the accent in there too. It might be metformin.
You don't have an accent like that.
No, I don't. Others that I've heard,
Yeah.
Mine, I get crossed up, and if you have a couple of cocktails.
Oh yeah,
it'll sound like my homeland.
It'll come out. Was it use what are some of them?
Use guys.
Yeah, use guys instead of y'all. It's
my mom was really bad about it. She's like, "What are you doing later?" Like they pluralize the word you.
Use.
Like you. Like there's 3 of us. Use. You can't say use.
Yeah. Don't you know? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Don't you know?
My mom was real bad, and I feel like the accent is a little heavier in the Wisconsin women.
I could see that. Yeah.
My mom had it pretty.
Or
good.
I think it's just more pronounced, because if you get a Southern woman, like the accent really sticks out. If you get a chick from New England, that accent, that Boston accent really comes out. The New York women, like I think it's just more accentuated when it comes to women. This one over here, all she's got to do is hear someone talk that way, and it's like instantly, like someone could come up to be like, "How y'all doing?" And she'd be like, "Fine, how are you?" Like I'm like, what just happened? Like you were fine. You were fine 2 seconds ago.
My favorite.
You're pandering to them.
Favorite one. It's where they're talking trash about somebody, and all of a sudden, like, you couldn't even be in on the conversation, but you just overhear somebody else, and you just turn around and you said, "Oh, bless her heart."
Yeah, bless her heart. Yeah. Bless her heart.
Because you know that they're talking some evil shit.
Oh yeah.
Bless. I don't use.
Oh yeah, bless her heart has a very mixed. It does not mean bless her heart. It does. Nope. It does not. It's the very southern, polite way of.
I'm curious to see how far this podcast goes. Like, if there's people in Seattle that make fun of like California,
right?
Because there's not really.
I mean, because we only know like this little. I don't know.
I mean,
West Coast.
I can't recreate it, but there's definitely a California accent. There's definitely.
I think it's more in like what they say. It's not so much how they say it.
True. I mean, everyone has. I mean, I remember a couple weeks ago when we were up in New Hampshire, and Ryan and his girlfriend were there, and we started to kind of mock the Boston, New England accent.
His girlfriend got pissed.
Yeah, but
she's also type 1.
Yeah, she was. That we found that out. Mm-hmm. But she was upset because we were saying Boston and all that, and she was upset, and I looked at her. I was like, "Oh, yeah, because you never make fun of rednecks." And they're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay, exactly. It's fair. Yeah. It's fair."
But the beautiful thing about rednecks is those people are everywhere.
Yep.
Those are our people.
So true.
Have you ever gotten off like a main road in Wisconsin? You're like, "Hey, you're our people."
Yeah. I always smile when we used to go to was it Madison or
I miss
Milwaukee.
I miss that place.
Road America, all those places. Whenever we used to stop at a gas station and the lady behind the counter or guy behind the counter would always have that accent, and I always just kind of smile. It's my favorite accent. And unfortunately, I can't enjoy the squeaky cheese from up there. I actually have a cheese allergy, so I can't. That's the one thing that everyone's looking forward to is buying the real cheese cubes, cheese curds, whatever they are.
Curds.
Yeah, cheese curds at like.
I get it right, guy.
At like a gas station. Like they
do. They have them everywhere. So like pick any chain of restaurants, 7-Eleven, Quick Trip, whatever. Like every gas station that's worth a damn in Wisconsin has cheese curds. And they're all like locally made. So there's a couple of big name ones up there, and they're bigger, different parts of like the geography of the state.
Like big like a Sargento?
Well, that's in that area, but that's like national. Like Sargento is like a big deal everywhere. But I mean, it's a big deal there. Mm-hmm. But you have like the local farms, and we would always go to like the same spot in Marathon, Wisconsin. So that's where we always got our cheese. It was so good. So you get it like if it's day fresh, they made it like that morning. Mm-hmm. It's still warm when you pick up the bag. So it's in like it looks like a bread bag. It's got a bread tie on it, but it's smaller. So it's like a quart size maybe. Mm-hmm. And it's still warm. And when you bite into it, it squeaks when you bite into it. It's so good. If you don't know anything about it, you need to get some. It's good. Good stuff.
Yeah, squeaky cheese is what they call it.
And these people would deep fry it at the county fair and sell it back to you. It was awesome.
Deep fried squeaky cheese.
Yeah, delicious.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah. Do yourself a favor and stop in Wisconsin.
I could probably do like one, and then the rest of my day's ruined. But I could
close shut.
Yeah, I could have one and enjoy it, and then 10 minutes later, I'm trying to clear my throat.
You have a cheese allergy. Our tire changer has a peanut
allergy.
I can't eat fucking sugar.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just falling apart.
Who else is busted on our deal?
You're overcoming all obstacles. I think it's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I mean,
we just have to find like
jumping in front of cars.
A very specific place to stop when we eat, though.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny.
Right?
So I know where I got to talking about it on the last podcast about being from watermelon country.
Yeah.
So is there like cheese festivals and like the Cheese Queen
man. We have everybody's heard of Dairy Queen, right? But like America's Dairyland is Wisconsin, right? So we have a Dairy Queen, and then like the 4-H fair, you show your best cow.
Yeah,
it's like it's a big deal.
Mm-hmm. I was a member of 4-H too, and
did they do cows there?
Yeah, and they even keep the cows in like a refrigerated.
The whole cow?
Yeah. Well, they do that because they keep the cow. I don't know what, it's not like 32 degrees, but they keep the cow in like a cooler building. So the cow grows a thicker coat. So
Is this like the day of the show?
No.
This is all the time.
No,
like the whole week?
yeah, all the time. So it keeps its winter coat. This is what I've seen.
You know, in Wisconsin, they don't have to do that. You just let
it's
them
pretty cold.
outside.
They're fine.
Because if they make a lap around the pasture and come back, they have like frozen snot rocket stuck to their face. You don't have to you don't put cows in a cooler up there. You just let them
Well, because it's Wisconsin. But July in southern Indiana is still hotter than northern Wisconsin.
Yeah, it's like 72.
Perfection.
I remember. Okay, so I have a June birthday, right?
Yeah.
I remember it snowing growing up. I think it snowed 3 different times on my birthday in June.
That's terrible.
Yeah, like Memorial Weekend.
Jesus.
Yeah, Memorial Weekend one time. I remember it snowed like 3 inches. You know,
Like
end of May.
like just in the morning, and then it was gone by.
It stuck around like all day, but like the next day it deteriorated and kind of.
We're not ever moving there.
It's a great
FYI.
place to visit. Like if you like,
I'll come and eat some cheese there once,
Yeah,
and
we
then
can
I'll
go to
go
Cheese
home.
Fest.
Oh, and see the Northern Lights.
Yeah,
Cheese Fest, Northern Lights.
Cheese Fest,
Back
Beer
to-
Fest. You guys got
Beer
Beer Fest
Fest?
up
there's a
there?
lot of Germans up there. So I mean, a great brat. If you want a good brat, that's where you go.
Brought
Really
in,
good.
brought in some sauerkraut and some mustard.
Yes, sir.
Mouth watering just thinking about it.
Probably the best you'll ever get.
And a tall liney.
Yeah. You gotta get Liney's there or
Leinenkugel's what we're talking
yeah,
about.
yeah. It's up there in Chippewa
Calm
Falls.
it down.
Chippewa Falls.
Yeah, you
Okay,
inject on?
so that video of that comedian, I can't remember his name.
I love that guy. He does the Manitowoc.
Manitowoc Man. Look up that. Look
does
up that
that, and
comedian
then-
because I got to
also
tag him
search.
in this because like we have a field day.
Oh, man,
with those
like-
videos.
If he listens to this, like, bro, I want to be your friend so bad. Like, we could talk about Wisconsin. I really feel like we could bro it out. Like, we could talk about the Manitowoc Minute, and maybe we could even start like a Wausau Wanderer, you know?
The Wausau Wanderer,
So Matt Rawling calls me the Wisconsin Whipper.
the Wisconsin Whipper.
He's like, all right, it's your turn, you know? Like, you guys are up. He's like, here comes the Wisconsin Whipper. What were we talking about the other day? It was all the drivers and guys in racing from the great state of Wisconsin.
Yeah, and those.
You didn't know who one of them is.
No, I didn't even know who he was.
Dave Marcus.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, Dave.
so
Never.
my man Zach didn't know who Dave Marcus was.
I apologize for that.
Okay. So
It's-
should we go to the list?
Yeah, just
So
off the top of my head. Okay, so I'll write them down for you so we know.
All right. So Dave Marcus is one of them. Dick Trickle. Okay. Dick Trickle is the only guy to ever have an ashtray installed in a Winston Cup car.
Yeah,
True
yeah,
story.
yeah. He had an ashtray and he had one of those push cigarette lighters that are in a car.
Hashtag priorities.
Yeah, so under caution he would have the cigarette in his mouth and then push it and light it. And you remember seeing him race, right?
I never got to see him race, but I know a lot of guys that raced with him and raced around him. So when he ran at Wausau at State Park Speedway, they said that he would keep cigarettes in his front pocket of his fire suit.
Yeah. He had like a pocket sewn onto his fire suit. Like
Yeah, or it
there's
came with one. I don't know
Yeah.
how it worked out. It was back in the day. So they said that caution would come out, or they're doing their warm up laps or whatever, and it's night. So they said coming to the green, you hear all the engines starting to like accelerate and coming off the turn. And they said, lo and behold, out of Dick's window, you see flick a cigarette out towards the infield. You'd go off into turn one, and they said you'd see like a puff of smoke coming out, like he was vaping in there or something.
Yeah. So he would take his last drag, throw it out, hold his breath until he was driving out of one, and go as he's driving out of one.
Quarter-mile, beautiful race facility. Like, they just don't do stuff like that anymore. Of course, I don't think I was alive at that time, or definitely not old enough to remember. But
Yeah,
Stories that I've
I
heard
always
from-
remember seeing the M car when he was in a Winston Cup car. I always remember seeing the M car of him reaching over and pushing the cigarette lighter in, and then lighting his cigarette under caution going around the racetrack.
well, you're sponsored by Winston cigarettes, man.
hey.
I mean, the only guy that probably endorsed a product every week on track.
Okay, so Dave Marcus, Dick Trickle,
Scott Wimmer from Wausau.
Scott Wimmer. I know Scott. Well, I knew him after he was driving because he would spot for Robbie Gordon.
Yeah.
So I got to meet him there. Scott Wimmer.
Currently Paul Menard.
Yeah.
He, the Menards family, real big in Wisconsin. Yeah, I think he's the only Wisconsin driver out there right now.
For a while, I don't know if it's surpassed that, but there is a Menards in Princeton, Indiana, which is like 15 minutes south of my hometown. That was the southernmost.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
That was the southernmost Menards, and that's 60 miles north of Kentucky, in Indiana. And that was at the time that was the southernmost. They've probably built another one since then because he keeps expanding like crazy.
Yeah, they said that deal will probably pass Lowe's before too long.
Yeah, I mean
I don't know. That's probably not even a fact. I'm just saying.
I mean,
it's a possibility.
They basically have. I mean, it's Lowe's with clothes, and I mean they're starting to get some food stuff now.
Are they really?
Yeah.
I mean, I know that they sell beef jerky there because like every time, like my
cheese.
dad, they do. So of course they do. It's a Wisconsin establishment guy. So my dad built a new house a few years ago, and he's like, why can't I get some like Menards stuff? I was like, I don't know. What do you mean Menards stuff? He's like, I need a hat or like a shirt or something. I was like, I don't know. Let's go buy one, guy. He's like, I've spent enough money at that fucking store that they can get me stuff. Like build his whole house on like Menards shit. He's like, hey, can you hook a brother up? Like, maybe, I don't know. Why don't you just go over to John's house and ask him for a shirt?
So Menard, Johnny Sauter?
Johnny
Sauter's from there. Okay. There's 5. Who else?
How many do we have picked out the other day? Like 7?
Oh,
I'm sure we're missing a few.
Matt Kenseth. Duh.
And his crew chief, Robbie Reiser.
Yeah, Reiser.
Or, well, was his crew chief for a while.
Uh-huh, Reiser.
And so also Johnny Sauter's crew chief, Joe Shearer.
Yep.
Also
you brought his name up earlier.
Yep.
Joe Shearer. Yeah, because the story that I always heard was that Reiser and Kenseth used to like race against each other or whatever.
I heard that too.
There was always like a constant rivalry between the two, and whoever came here first basically brought the other one down because of how good they were. Because basically those were the only two, the two best guys up there. Mm-hmm. Because they knew that they were so good and so tough, and then they ended up combining forces and they won 2 championships.
I don't know how many. I know he's won at least one in I think it was 2003. Mm-hmm. Because I remember I went to Rockingham when they had locked that deal up, and I actually Rockingham. So when they used to run cup cars there. Mm-hmm. So a friend of mine has a championship ring with that car, and I got to carry for that guy for about a year.
Mm-hmm. I got a pretty good friend of mine that was a front tire carrier on that deal.
Yeah,
Chris Brook.
Yeah, oh yeah.
They also had the pit crew championship there.
They did. They used to have it there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You were lucky enough that you were actually in a pit crew championship.
I did. I got to partake. It was at held in Charlotte at the.
Was it Bojangles or Time Warner?
The Time Warner. I don't know. I think it's called Spectrum now or something. Mm-hmm. So it was the last one that like Tyson sponsored or whatever. It was a big deal. It was. I think that's actually the last time that my mom came to town before she passed away.
Wow.
So that was a big deal. I mean, it was always a dream. So, obviously, like if you play baseball, you want to be in the home run derby. Mm-hmm. I don't know how that deal works, but I know that racing, you have to be so high in points in order to get invited to that deal. And as a kid, or as growing up through, getting into racing and stuff, I took a picture out of a magazine, and I left it on my refrigerator for about 10 years before I got to do that. And it was a picture of a championship ring. And I said I was going to go get one, right? And I had a shot at it. That ring was what I wanted for a long time.
Yeah, that's the big fish that always got away from me.
Yeah,
because I always wanted to compete in that. Like, always wanted to compete in that.
Man, it's big. And no, I mean we talk about this, that, and the other thing, and who's done this, that, and the other thing. I'm very fortunate, and I'm just glad that I got to partake in it. Yeah, you walk into that building, and there's, you look up to 3 or 4 different tiers of people, right? Lights in your face. It's hot in there. You see people that you know and that you've worked with and that you currently work for, and you look up, and you're like, oh, shit, I shouldn't have looked up.
Why'd they do away with it?
They did away with it because I don't know, there was a bunch of excuses. They said that there wasn't a good turnout and it cost too much and they couldn't get a facility and couldn't get someone to sponsor it. Now they say they give the trophy, the quote unquote Pit Crew trophy, to the All-Star qualifying, the pit stop that we do during. Okay. Yeah,
which is pretty awesome to do that too.
Yeah, it is really awesome, but I still wish that we could jump out like we normally do.
Yeah,
because on a normal deal,
well, I think that they should go back to doing it right then and there during qualifying. Like if you post up the fastest pit stop time and the fastest lap on track, you should get trophy. But they shouldn't have a jump line because they're still doing like 70 miles an hour.
Yeah. So the difference is on a normal pit stop, we have a pit road speed, 35, 45, 55. When you do the All-Star qualifying, when there's not that. So
there's no pit road speed.
So on a normal pit stop, we can jump before the car's in our box, but not before it reaches the back line of the stall that's to the right of us. That's in front of us. Yeah. In front, behind. It's in the direction that the car's coming. So there's our pit box and then the line and then the stall next to it. So as our car's pulling in, when he reaches the back line of the stall, we're allowed to touch the ground. On the All-Star qualifying, there's no pit road speed. So the car is in the stall and at a complete stop before you're allowed to jump. And
they're going so fast.
Yeah.
Like this year was my first year doing that too. And so they call it out. They say, okay, car's on pit road. And I'm like, all right, you got a second. So I'm going to pick up my tire. So I look at my tire, I pick it up, and it's like 5 stalls away, and he's still cruising.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit.
It's like...
Is fucker going to stop or not?
It's so much different than anything that we ever see, and it's quiet because there's only one car out there. And the way that the stands are at Charlotte, it just echoes. I mean, you hear them, wow, wow, wow. And awesome. I mean, they're awesome. Yeah, they're getting on there. So, and you just hear the car echo, completely different. It's just that car is all you hear. And they come sliding in. And I mean, some of them miss, some of them hit it just right.
I think they should do that like somewhere else too. I mean, they should have like the picker challenge right there in Charlotte because I feel like that's where it needs to be.
Yeah.
But like qualifying for like Daytona, I think they should do it there.
Maybe for the
sketchy,
maybe for the showdown.
Yeah.
Maybe for
maybe for the All-Star or whatever, or not the All-Star,
but the shootout.
Yeah, the shootout showdown or the clash. That's what they called it this year, the clash.
And then Homestead. If you do it 3 times a year, first race, 600, and then at the end, just, shake things up.
That'd be fun.
Throw a wrench into that.
That'd be fun. I think I'm just partial to it.
About that, aren't they?
Yeah.
I think I'm just partial to it as a jackman because I jump out in front of the car, and when that happens, I have to run around the car to get out there to the right side first. So it's so much different for me, really compared to anyone else. So,
yeah, because usually the 2 people that get hit on pit road are the front carrier and the jackman because you're the closest.
Yeah, because the front
closest to the car at the jump line.
Mm-hmm. And I'm the one that has to. I'm the one that jumps first.
And has to clear the most space.
Yep.
Essentially.
Yep. In the least amount of time.
Yeah.
Because in the middle of the pit stall, they come in and I have to get out there before he gets in there and gets stopped.
It's a pretty good jump. How much does that jack weigh?
18, 20 pounds.
Okay. So I mean, it's enough to kind of make a difference.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, you're still carrying something, so you don't get the momentum of your arms, when you're running. So it's the ability to jump down off the wall. I'm able to jump further than what I could, just doing like a normal broad jump. But it's really just 3 steps to get out there, and it's the 3 hardest steps that I can do to get out there.
Well, I've noticed that this week because of where I'm jumping for our reverse stops at not Road America, the Glen.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why I feel sore in different areas that I'm normally not, because I'm like running out there.
Yeah,
because you're running like you said, the first 3 steps are hard, but then you got to stop and turn around.
And naturally, as a rear tire carrier, the rear tire changer and the rear tire carrier, they wait for the car to come by because of the hose of the tire changer. So the car comes in and then
chase it.
Yeah, then they chase it down. as opposed to now, this week, we're doing something different because the car's coming from the left side. They go clockwise around there. So the car's coming from our left instead of our right. So Ethan here standing next to me when he jumps out and with the tire. So he's gone from stepping down off the wall and then running after something to jumping just like me.
In front of the car. And I'm the closest to the car at the jump line. And then I'm closest to the car when it comes into the stall. Like,
yep. Welcome to my world.
I don't like it. I want to go back to the back where I'm the last guy off the wall and I just have to follow something out there. Like, This I get, because the first stop, that's the first time that they've ever had me line up like this. Close to you and jumping out with you. Mm-hmm. So our first stop in practice, I think I jumped a little late. And I was like, fuck you, because I almost got hit.
That's all he was. I'm just laughing. I'm like, ah.
And I turned around, and I'm all in the way. I think I hit you, and then Colin went to go sit down, but he sat on my leg, and I was like, hey, man, move.
Yeah. You were all turned around, all.
But today was pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt a lot better about it today, and getting used to it. And it's that whole the line of sight thing is different. It's just
because
backwards.
Yeah, and now I have you standing in my way.
Get used to it. Apparently. That's how it's going to be this week.
Yeah, so he's to my left. So as he's jumping, he's kind of in my line of sight.
Right.
I'm definitely going to get in your space.
Just run just a little bit further and give me just a little bit of a window so I can see.
Yeah, you and every tire changer out there. I need a little more, man.
Don't bump me.
Yeah, don't bump me.
Well, I look forward to watching on Sunday.
Yeah, for me, the road courses and the plate races are my favorite races to watch on TV because it's really the most action. On the plate races, everyone's slammed together. On the road courses, you really have to see. It's a lot more driver is involved in it. Instead of just being the machine out there, just clicking off laps and trying to hit the same marks every time. It's a lot more physical. You're battling the car left, right, shifting gears. Braking car inside, car outside. It's a lot more exciting to watch those races. And in our situation,
could be a really great weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, our teammate is really, really good there. And I mean, I like it because it's different. It kind of breaks up the mundane. We'll go out there and run around a car.
Yeah, I mean, our drivers.
I like it.
Our drivers.
Yeah, he's won ARCA race there.
Yep.
I think he's won an Xfinity
with me.
Race there.
With me. We won Road America.
Remind him about that this weekend, would you?
Let's get a repeat.
Say, hey, by the way.
Hey, remember that time?
I remember. You remember?
Remember?
So, all right. Let's see. Yeah. We've been at this for a while now. First thing, before we shut this down, we found out the news about Harry Scott, the former team member of H. Scott. He passed away. Our thoughts and prayers are with his family and everyone affected. I know that he was a big time favorite amongst the mechanics and the crew people. I mean, he's definitely going to be missed. Not all the information's out yet, but I never worked for him, but I used to see him around the garage, and he was very, very well liked, very, very highly respected by all his peers and the racing community. So he will be deeply missed by everyone. If you've listened to this, hopefully you listened to the first one. Thank you. Once again, this is a work in progress. Each time we're going to add something. Ethan was our honorary first guest.
I appreciate y'all having me. And I just want to say to any other type 1s that are out there, don't let anybody ever tell you that you can't do something because you have a quote unquote disability. Mm-hmm. I was told that as a young age, and I had a guy tell me, don't ever let anybody tell you that you can't do something because they're full of shit. And that's something that I don't think I'll ever forget. And when I talk to kids, I tell them the same thing. Don't ever let anybody tell you that you can't do it because they're full of it.
If there's someone out there that's looking for a support group or some knowledge or some information, where should they go?
You can contact the JDRF.org. You can contact me on social media. I always love hearing my type 1 stories. If you're in the Charlotte area and you're a type 1, there's a Facebook group called Act 1. That's adults in Charlotte with type 1. And then I think there are other links to other cities as well for the JDRF, but jdrf.org.
Where can people find you on Twitter and Instagram?
I can't remember what my Instagram is because I don't get on there much.
I think it's at Tire Carrier.
At Tire Carrier
Pretty
is probably that one, and that's also the Twitter. And Facebook is Ethan Marquette. It's spelled just like the university. But yeah, at Tire Carrier is pretty much everything else. Because for the longest time, when you're new and up and coming, and you work for different teams, they don't know your name. They're like, "Hey, Tire Carrier." I'm like, "What, crew chief?"
This is business card. We bring it all full circle.
Yeah.
Ethan,
Yeah.
Tire Carrier.
Yeah, Ethan
Tire Carrier.
Yeah,
Tire
now
Carrier.
it's at Tire Carrier. I am at JackmanZach on Twitter and Instagram. My beautiful wife is
At Miss Brit NC
at
on
Miss
Twitter and Instagram as well.
Twitter and Instagram. Please hit up our website, youngandpruitt.com. David wasn't even here.
Now it's just young.
Yeah.
Young.
I mean,
young.
Young
he didn't even
podcast.
make it. It's one podcast.
He said last time he was leaving, he was going to Denver.
That's right.
He's out.
Maybe he did go to Denver.
I think I heard some underlining tones of
Maybe that-
mocking, saying things like, "Fuck you, I'm out."
Yeah, maybe that was the business that he had to attend to.
That's sly.
I'm going to text him here in a little bit. But yeah, youngandpruitt.com/podcast. Thank you for listening. We will see you next time. This is the Young and Pruitt podcast. Oh, wait. At Young and Pruitt on Twitter and Instagram is the podcast handle on Twitter and Instagram. Yeah, there you go. See you guys.